for example, if it's someone who is client facing, we might ask them to send a video, and the video becomes sort of our culture interview, our initial interview. So in that interview, we might ask a set of questions that get at job experience and just why do you want to work with us?
Well, hello and welcome to the J. Sterling Hughes Show, where we share the straight truth on how we have built our family law firm from 0 to 25 attorneys and $15 million in revenue over the past 10 years. And my purpose here is to document what's working and what's not working, with hopes that you can take that and you can recontextualize that for your practice and shorten your success curve. And today we're talking about one of our growth engines, Robin, on how we are building our firm. So my guest today is Robin Esch, and we're talking about our international teammates, how we have found them, how we select them, how we manage them once they join our team, what are they doing, how many are client facing, and so forth. So to give our audience some perspective and context here, we looked at these numbers just before our podcast today, and we've got around 87 total teammates in our law firm today. That includes lawyers, paralegals, legal assistants, support teammates, intake, back office, finance, me, etc. And of those, we have 60 of them are located here in the United States, and 27 of them are located internationally. And I believe, Robin, correct me if I'm wrong, we have teammates in the Philippines where the majority sit, and we have some in Mexico. Am I correct on that? Correct. Okay, yes. Cool. All right, so this is going to be a 3-part series, and today's series we're going to talk about sourcing. How do we find these teammates? What's the process we go through? What websites are we using? All of the nitty-gritty details, so you can hear how we're doing it. Hopefully you can take that and maybe use it in your practice as well. So Robin, high level, just kind of describe our teammate composition and how do you and your team go about finding these wonderful people.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks so much for having me here to talk about these things today. I really appreciate it. So we have a large group of our teammates who are offshore, are client facing. They're doing some work on the phones, and that would be our intake and outbound call team. Probably makes up the largest group. And then we have one person in particular who also supports our finance team, does some work there and does some client facing work as well. And we also have some people supporting in other facets of our finance team that aren't client facing, doing behind the scenes work, a lot of work with reporting and databases. I have 2 on my team, the HR team, and they do everything. They are client facing, they're behind the scenes, they're doing interviews, they're doing it all. So they are a huge face of the firm. Then we have some who are working as more of like an executive partner role, who work with one of our managing partners and the president of our company as well. So they're supporting him with their very, very, very busy schedules. One attorney having incredibly high client load and caseload, and then with our president with all the work that he's doing as well, just with an extraordinarily full calendar and a lot of tasks and things to do. So that kind of is an overview of who we have working and sitting in what seats at this time.
Okay. And of the teammates we have right now that are international, how do we go about finding these people? What was the process that you and your team went through to locate and source these candidates?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have focused on a couple of websites in particular and have tried many, but have found 2 that have been really productive, really fruitful for us to use. And that is one based in the Philippines. It's an online jobs based in the Philippines. And so it's OnlineJobs.ph. And then there's one that probably most people are more familiar with, which is Upwork. And we can find wonderful people from all over the world using that one. We've tried sourcing through more industry specific and more region specific, but what we have found there in going through those in particular, that they're really good for that area, but we do have some trouble with just us being in America and English speakers. A lot of them aren't so as, user friendly in that regard. So we were trying to translate just how to sign up, let alone actually reach out and talk to somebody. So we've steered away from those. Those were just some lessons learned along the way, and are really focusing on those 2 and have had just great success with both of those websites.
Yeah, let me drill into this a little bit, Robin, and give more history behind our program here at Sterling Law. So way back about 6 or 7 years ago, I needed some work done. I don't know if you know this part of the story, Robin, but I needed some personal work done. And basically I needed some home expenses reconciled. And so I went online to Upwork.com and I described the job and I put it out there, and I had you're going to get a whole bunch of candidates from all over the world that raised their hand and expressed interest. I ended up selecting 2 of them. I thought, well, the price is pretty low. I can handle the cost for having both of these individuals do the same exact job. And for me, it was a split test. I wanted to see if person A was more efficient and did better work than person B, then I was going to select that person for more work down the road. And that first candidate, who is really, really strong, her name is Eden, and she came on board and she did personal work, and it was all spotty project work. Like I would have a project for 1 month and nothing for 3 months, and then have a whole bunch of stuff that would be 4 or 5 months worth of work for her, like little projects that she would kind of stack together. Then after about a year or so of that, we were developing our consult process here at Sterling. And one of the things that I wanted to do was get a sense for how our lawyers were doing in the consult room. And I couldn't listen to all of these consults or watch them on video. And so I went to her and said, hey, Eden, would you be willing to come on basically full time at that point and do nothing but listen and evaluate consults? We'd have our lawyers record the consults, send those to her in the Philippines. She would then follow a process of just like listening for certain markers in the consult process. And then she would basically evaluate that back with a quality control score, so to speak, in lack of a better description. That's what she would do. That worked so exceptionally well that I said, Eden, we need to do this with more people. So can you hire 2 more people to join you? And she did that. And that was the beginning of our team. That's now grown to this 27 people that we have on our team that are based in the Philippines and in Mexico. And so that was how it initially began. And also along the way, we started working with another vendor called Athena. And today we have 4 teammates that are really not employed by Sterling. They're employed by Athena, and we pay Athena for their work. So maybe you can describe that program as well.
Yes. So Athena is an agency that it's almost could kind of consider it like it functions almost like a temp agency or something like that. So we are their clients, and my 2 teammates are my 2 partners are both with Athena. And so they technically, while they report to us, they also report to Athena. So they have some kind of dual work. They have a lot going on in their world because they also have a lot of accountability with Athena as well. Then we have a couple others who work as executive partners too, the ones I mentioned for the president and one of our attorneys. What they can do is anything from personal tasks to payroll and everything in between. We have found that they're just stellar people to work with, as really all of our offshore team is. Athena's a little bit different in that they provide a lot of support and training. And if there are things that they need outside, that maybe something that they need extra training in, that can be supplied through Athena. But really, for the most part, the relationship is with them and us. And then we will meet with their operation managers periodically just to do performance reviews and tell them how great they're doing, because they always are. And So I forget sometimes that they actually work for Athena. They are so invested in Sterling. They love Sterling. And even though we're technically their clients, it is such a partnership that it's really seamless. I forget that how they came to us and that they have this whole other, group of managers and things that they have to report to as well, because they're so invested, so tied into us, and just such diligent workers. So that one's a little bit different, because then their payroll, they get paid through Athena, they have benefits through Athena, and report to them as a regular employer.
Let me just add to that, because this is certainly not a testimonial for Athena. We just chose them. They've been a really good partner with us, frankly, over the past couple of years that we've worked with them. But now I know that we are kind of not hiring anymore through Athena. We're hiring direct.
Correct.
We're finding that's a little bit better. And I know Athena's had some challenges with teammates staying with Athena, because I don't know what's happened internally with them, but I know a few that have left that have been a a little bit difficult for us to work with. But there are a ton of other of these vendors out there, by the way. So it's not just Athena. Right. There are dozens of them in all likelihood that you can go to, and they'll source them for you and bring them in. If you're a smaller law firm, I would recommend starting here first before going and trying to hire direct on your own. But given our experience, the number of people, it just made more sense for us to start building our team direct, and we've done that. In addition to the Philippines, and I know you mentioned the sites that we've worked with, and a lot of our teammates have also come through networking just simply within our team.
Yes,
right?
Yeah.
That's been another big
Absolutely.
source.
Yep. That has been something that's been really helpful too, is now that we have people that we know and we have just great working relationships with us and have such credibility that they can go into their own networks as well and come through as a referral. So in addition to using those sites, and I'm glad that you brought that up, even on their own social media pages, I know that my two partners that I work with, they can reach out to people that they know, or people who are, anyone who works for us internally has some really good resources there and can just do it on a Facebook page or a LinkedIn page when we were looking to source people as well. So that's also been a really good place to get really good people.
Do you compensate our team for like a referral bonus or anything like that?
Yeah, we haven't yet, because we, so sometimes we get a referral from, how can I say this, like through an agency who is not like necessarily our employee. And so we can't do it that way. Like it might be someone who actually is doing really specific work that isn't like executive partner type work that they would be going through an agency, but maybe they know someone from Athena and they're looking for a job, and this word of mouth, they might hear about us or know that they work for Sterling. And so we haven't done that yet, but it's something that we're looking into incorporating, because we do that with our onshore employees as well. So the referrals that we have had have been our employees through Athena, but not technically our Sterling employees yet.
Okay. So I know like when Eden built her team out, it was done primarily through her personal network, right? And then those people knew people and so forth, and just kind of grew from there. And given our culture and how we compensate and so forth, it's a pretty attractive job for for a lot of folks in the Philippines, for example, right? Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. So if I can walk you through, Robin, how we go about actually utilizing the websites that we post these jobs on. So what's the one in the Philippines, the primary one that we use?
That is OnlineJobs.ph.
.ph?
I think it's just OnlineJobs.ph.com, I believe is what
okay.
Yeah.
Got it. And so you'll post on there through one of your support teammates, right?
Yep.
Both of which are based in the Philippines, so they know how to maneuver there and speak the culture and so forth. So they'll post an advertisement for, let's say, a legal assistant position where I know we're building out that program right now. Yes. So they'll post for that, and then you'll get just generally, how many candidates will you get for a role like that?
Probably about up to 60 in a day.
Okay, per day. Yeah. Got it. Okay.
Per day.
And then how do you go about screening those candidates down?
Yes, so that's a great question. So we, again, through lots of trial and error, we've come down to what we hope is a pretty fine-tuned process. We have quite a few steps in our process. So we go through the job board and we have a subscription. So then we can start to communicate with, we can send a link and things like that. So because we get such a high volume, we need to have kind of some screeners in place. So that's a lot of people to go through on a day, especially when you have multiple roles that you're hiring for. So in that process, we really customize it to the role that we're doing. So for example, if it's someone who is client facing, we might ask them to send a video, and the video becomes sort of our culture interview, our initial interview. Mm-hmm. So in that interview, we might ask a set of questions that get at job experience and just why do you want to work with us? And that can help expedite the process as well. And that serves another purpose in that we can see how someone does communicate. So if they're going to be client facing, it's like we're having a conversation with them. So even though it's a recording, we can see, can we communicate okay? Is there going to be a big language barrier? Is it going to be hard for them to understand or speak? Because we know that English is not their first language. Well, it's really hard to tell with a lot of people. That it is not their first language, because they're phenomenal with the English language. But so that kind of helps. That's one level of screening too. But we have built that, kind of have a homegrown ATS, applicant tracking system, something you might find in a human resource information system. We have kind of built out our own and have used Google Forms to do that. So as they fill out our questionnaire that we send them, which might request a video, we might ask that they take a different assessment or something like that. And then that information will get fed into our own database through that Google form. And then we can use that as a way to screen. Did they answer all the questions? Did they submit a video if they were asked? Did they do this assessment if they were asked? And that whole process is going to be the initial screen. If we're seeing yes, 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 and now we're going to take a closer look at that one. But if along the way they're just not following instructions, or we ask them to do something and they're just ignoring it, then that person will get screened out because we have such a high volume to go through.
Yeah. So you're pretty rigorous. So if they miss a step, they're just out because we don't have enough time to give everyone a second chance if they mess it up.
Yeah,
right.
And it's basically that. And sometimes someone will send us a message like, oh, I tried to do this and I was having trouble with technology or something. We'll always extend grace in those situations. If someone is really communicative, of course, we want to give them, people the benefit of the doubt. But if it's just kind of here it is and incomplete or done in a less than thoughtful way, then that person will get screened out because we do have such a high volume of applicants. Not for most jobs. There's some that are a little more specialized that we don't, and of course we'll take a closer look at those because we also don't want to just miss out on talent. But there's a little kind of some variables to that depending on the volume that we're getting in.
Yeah. When you apply the 60 candidates, for example, hypothetically, the 60 candidates come through, you apply the screening process. How many typically come out on the other side as taking the next step from there?
Yeah. So we just are going through this now. And I would say probably about a half a dozen will actually.
Okay. Wow. So about 10% make it through.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a pretty good screening methodology, I think, if you're going to get it down to 10%. Okay, so we're going to get into hiring in the next episode, but a couple of things related to this. You talked about assessments. What assessments are we using right now as a part of our screening process?
Yeah, so we use predictive index and we use those for our onshore teams as well. And that isn't something that we necessarily use to screen people out. Although if someone is just ignoring it and not taking it, that's just a sign of, are you going to follow instructions or not? And so that's just kind of a basic tool in that regard. But we use that just to see how someone might behave in this role. So that doesn't really tell us how they're going to perform in a role, but it will tell us kind of what their behaviors are. And is someone really collaborative? Is someone work better alone? So it'll give us some indicators as far as that goes. And again, not necessarily for the purpose of screening out, but just so we're aware what kind of support would this person need or not need. Same as with our onshore team as well. That is a primary one that we're using. And another one that we use isn't really an assessment, but I know I spoke about it earlier, but it's just our use of videos and just to really kind of evaluate is how fluent someone is English speaking. Because if we're having people calling in, we don't want there to be a language barrier on the part of either one. So although that's not really a formal assessment, it is a kind of a strategic tool that we use to put in place. We want to just see how that person will interact with people and be able to hear someone speak and make sure they're understanding our questions and things as well, just that were sent to them through writing.
Yeah. I know you've mentioned the language issue, and that's the number one question I get when I tell people that we have teammates that are offshore.
Yeah.
Well, how do you understand them? And I can tell you right now that the language challenges, quote unquote, are almost non-existent. Like for some people, you would think that they're like a block away from you. They're here in the US. It's just so incredible how well, especially some of these younger folks that are coming up that have been speaking English basically since they joined grade school and they were little kids. So they're really, really good. So I don't think that's an issue anymore at all. Now, it might be you go to different countries. I know like with India, I've worked with some Indian folks that's a little harder there from an understanding standpoint, but in the Philippines and in Mexico, boy, I don't see that at all.
Right, correct.
It's rare, I should say. It does pop up, but it's rare.
Yes.
And then with respect to Mexico, I know we have a few teammates there, not quite as many as we have in the Philippines. How did we come about getting those folks on our team?
Yes. So we went through an agency to work with some of them. And also we no longer partner with them, but we also do hire directly out of Mexico as well. And so that is someplace that, like, through Upwork, we've had a really easy time just getting people from that region as well.
Okay. Do you recall the name of the agency we worked with for
I
Mexico?
don't. I apologize.
I don't either. I know it's associated with Richard James and his group.
Yes.
I want to say it's the closing room or something like that.
Yes, it is. It is.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. It is something like that. Yes.
So I know a few of our teammates have come from there.
Yeah.
So what are the primary differences you're seeing between Mexico and the Philippines, if any?
I'll put it this way. When I look at our list, so we have a database of everyone, I couldn't tell you based on who they are, who's from where, unless I'm seeing it. Like, I don't see any differences that way. I think one of the biggest differences is probably in the Philippines is that English is just more of a widely, they're learning it just like as any other subject from a very early age. I don't know that that's in all areas of Mexico or in what areas that it is. And that is also, as we had looked into other regions as well, I'll just mention that can become a little bit more challenging. We've hired from South America, have looked at Central America, and it's not like a required subject in those areas as it is in other areas. So that's another reason for the focus on the areas that we do, especially the Philippines. But other than that, I really can't tell a difference between work or anything else.
Yeah.
Where they're from.
So just from a point of business strategy, we first started looking offshore when we were having so many challenges sourcing folks here in the US. It was just a matter of, look, we need people to help, and we can't get responses. We can't get qualified people that will be consistent in their just punctuality and things like that. So that was originally where we really started to expand our offshore teammates was back then. That was like 2020, 21 or so. Is when we really started in earnest to build that program out. But you get tremendously skilled people. A lot of them have advanced degrees, and the compensation is roughly a third to a half of what it is here in the US. So there's obviously some financial economic benefits to that. But even more than that is just the fact that we can find really, really wonderful people that are just really hard workers, that love their job and just do great work. I know my personal assistant, that she's basically my chief of staff. She does everything for me, and she's in the Philippines, from client-facing, scheduling, you name it. She does it all for me. So she's just really tremendous. Well, okay, this has been part one. We've talked about sourcing. In our next two episodes, we're going to be talking about how do we select and hire those teammates? What do you do, Robin, to go through that? And the third one, we're going to be talking about the managing part of it, which has got its own unique set of challenges and opportunities there too. So thanks for going through this. I'll see you in a bit. We'll be doing part two.
Thank you.